Incremental readings. This is the 23rd section of the Pleasurable guide to SuperMemo, the Fluency cycle. It's dedicated to processing text and images. First, see the text, then the images. Why not before? Because incremental reading was more important. You got the basics, so now it's okay. With images, you can process images in SuperMemo, as you will see. Even though we were only going to see an overview. Same for text. Well, the text is easier. You can highlight, ignore. Then we'll understand what means by SuperMemo, process text, how to delete this processed text. Some tricks to assess the length of an article by chapter, by characters, or by pages. Then what the links and hyperlinks, the Zander Parser that now is built in, something more concrete about HTML, how to remove it or filter it. So only some portions of the HTML you want to remove, not everything. Then how to open this externally or edit. Then the red points is just a single video because it's just 3 features. How to set, remove, or go to the red point. And it's a detail that is very quick to explain and it solves quite a lot of headaches in the future. Once you see an element, or why it scrolls at that position, right? Something like this. Only one detail is covered, the 2 phases of an enter key, which there's a setting. I included, it's important enough to be included here and in the Fluency, and it's because it's the only one. It's not that I have to make a selection. It's this or nothing. So I just kept it. Then we'll go to the image registry, different ways to add images to the registry because, surprise, you cannot have images on the elements directly. It's through a component, and the component is through the registry. Then some operations, image stretch, image fit, zoom and trim, image extract, and what's the difference between them, image registry paste, and advantages, image compression and conversion. Conversion means, hey, I have PNG, I want JPEG, whatever. And finally, something that is very high yield, if you can have images within HTML components. The answer is yes, yes you can, but the answer is also no, you shouldn't. SuperMemo is not built for that. You are doomed to many cons if you do it. So that's not everything there is, but it's the most useful stuff. In case the images the file size is large, you can compress it. Or you want to make an extract, so something that is a cognitive step. And what is taken out is the image occlusion, because it has its own section. And for the text, there's not much left. There's something we leave out of the scope, but it's just basics, to make underline, cross, just the basic thing that the missing returns. Most of the time you're not going to do this anyways, so you're not missing almost anything. This is an example that we're going already finishing the course, and what we're covering are details, nice to know, but you could have used SuperMemo without knowing any of these, at least the first section of the text. The images, at least the extract, is still useful to know. So without further ado, let's start the section. We're going to see some of the features about SuperMemo related to editing text. Okay, so let's say that this pops in my repetitions. This is an article, a scientific article. Okay. So what I can do is, oh wow, there's a lot of stuff here, but it doesn't start until here. I add styling, so I know this is header 1. So what I can do is everything that comes before, I don't care. Then on the selection, I will delete before. Alt and backwards dash. In case you don't use an English or an American keyboard layout, it's above the tab usually. Okay, it's this actually this icon after the dot. It's Alt and this icon. Delete text before cursor. Yes. So where my cursor is, that it's here in the 9, everything from this beginning, from here, will be deleted. Super convenient. In this case, because there are sections. But could be the case that you have HTML that is nested, division or sections or paragraphs, whatever. Could be the case that then you will mess around with SuperMemo and you will have a styling because you deleted the content, but you had some parent that it's a div, and the div with CSS adds color, then the color will carry over. How do you know that? Because if you go File and View Source, do you see this case is head, and body? That usually it's harmless. And I have the header one, so actually starts here. But I have some dummy code. Sometime here you can have a div instead of body, and this already is messing with you. One solution is to delete this manually, if you really care. Nice. So that is how it looks. That is delete before cursor. Especially indicated for topics when you have a lot of trailing, even this, that I don't care. I could do this, and delete it. Or just alt backdash or whatever it's called, and the same will happen. But we have the opposite. So what happens here? Let's say I don't want all of the references, not in SuperMemo. Then I could go here, select, and go all the way down and manually delete them, right? Oh my God, it's too many. I could have the possibility, by mistake, do up here. So I will also delete my references in SuperMemo, which I don't want to, by accident. So what I could do instead, something more clean, is no, Alt, and now instead of the backdash, we use the dot. And this is after the cursor. Yes. Here you go. And I keep the references. This is an example of a topic, but could be a monster close relation. Let me show one. Okay, here's one example. One of the close relations I did that is very long, right? Okay, a tax imposed by the government of a country, blah, 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 tariff, also called duty. So it's, okay, I can delete here, this dummy, or I can do alt backdash, here you go, exports of goods, and now import duty, this is irrelevant already. So since I don't need to reformulate here, I'm normally stripping text. Instead of selecting the text right here and delete, which I can do, is alt point and I do the same. This is more consistent, especially if you need to scroll and if it's problematic or you have a flow with the keyboard, it's more convenient. And then if you want now, you could even reformulate. But this is an example with an item. Usually the item would be, if you don't have done a monster close relation, you want to delete before or after, not in between. Those two features are super awesome for this context. Now we're going to see the highlighting and all of this in SuperMemo when there's no other thing other purpose than visual. Okay. So let me see something snoring. Let's see. Okay, plain language. Nice. Let's see if I can tell you in plain English. So in this case, I have the definition, but hey, wait a second. I have different definitions, multiple definitions of the same concept, right? Depending on the author. Okay. So what I can do is, hey, let me select this and now make a highlight. How I do that? Where's in the menu? Reading and highlight. There is no key binding for it, by the way. Keep in mind that I can do this for my future self, that, hey, pay attention to this thing even though it's processed. So next time you start reading, because I will continue from here, because SuperMemo will show me from here. It will scroll back because of the red points, something we'll see very soon. And no. Have this in consideration still. Because it's too soon, is which one I will use. I don't want to delete this, right? I'm highlighting this for a reason. But keep in mind, this is a topic, and in SuperMemo, topics are temporary. Eventually, I will apply done, so they will become empty, a folder, or deleted. So even though it will stay, it could be a few years. In this case, it's been more than a year and a half. Could be a decade. By definition, it's temporary. So why wasting time to make things pretty if this will be deleted anyways, right? That's why highlight is not emphasized. There's not even a key binding for it. And then we have the other stuff. That history, examples, okay. So it's, hey, I don't want this, right? So I will do, select all of this, right click, reading, and instead of highlighting, I will do ignore. This applies your styling of ignore. I have overwritten this. Usually the size will be a lot smaller. Actually, this is what you get when you import something from Wikipedia and you have the Wikipedia page have a banner. In this case, it's rare, there's no banner. Something like here, like this. Or an ad. SuperMemo will apply by default, will apply this, the ignore in the ads. That is killing. Okay. Then this is not for SuperMemo, this is for me. I'm telling, hey, there is some text, but ignore it, because I either want only to come across this via search, I only want for reference, because if someone asks me, or I need to provide an example of this, hey, here are some examples. But I'm not going to use the examples myself for my flashcards, if this makes sense. Or could be a quote. Oh yeah, I understood this theorem about this author, let's say Einstein, but hey, I want to quote the phrase, like verbatim, word by word. But I don't want to remember it myself, to memorize it. It's another use case. I can say ignore, don't pay attention to this, and that's it. And this means the opposite. Keep in mind you can change the color. Then in the Fluency, we're going to just stay here. Highlight. In the rare case that you postpone something and you want to make sure you don't overlook that in the future, and ignore something that you want to keep. Not read, but keep for a reason. As a reference or whatever. You don't want to remove it. Another thing you could do, rather equivalent, is make an extract. And then this extract becomes dismissed. So this won't appear in your repetitions, but at least the next time I revisit this, I know. I know because of the color, I know my intention. But could also be the case that I read this for reference only. As you can see, we are entering the zone of the soft skills in SuperMemo and incremental reading. And there are many ways to achieve more or less the same goal. So it depends on you. It's one of the ways. Here, I'm already providing you context that here comes from this, from plain language, and it's a child. So I have even redundancy on the source in this case. So therefore, I no longer need it if I want to. I no longer need it here. I'm not going to delete it explicitly, because now I have a copy, a dismissed copy, but I'm just going to ignore that, no pun intended, and just continue, and eventually I will apply done. Imagine I have done some flashcards and so on. I will have some flashcards, and this won't disappear. Why? Because the parent has one extract, is not leaf anymore. Therefore, when you apply done, it becomes a folder. It's not because there's an item, could be a dismissed topic, and you keep this for reference for as long as you want, or for life, if you will. And the highlight, usually it's temporary, and when you apply done, it's deleted, because the functionality of, now I have deleted this already, it was a pay attention this to the next repetition. It's temporary. So this is more or less the features for the Fluency user. You can repurpose, you can mess around with this and have other more obscure flows. And there are more cons and pros and details that go beyond the scope of the Fluency. It makes a difference at the end of the day, but are very obscure, the differences. So just stay with this. And as overall, don't remember what we have seen in the templates halfway the course before. Don't spend time to make things pretty. Spend this time actually learning. So the color is actually coded and it's functional. You don't put that highlight the yellow because you want it yellow. It's because you want to signal yourself. There's a functionality. It's not because it's pretty. So we have seen already how to work and how to work with text and how to make highlights, ignore, and so on. Okay. But what we did is getting rid of the entire thing. So what we're going to do now is something similar, dummy for now, but similar. So remember, I can have extracted, I can have a close deletion. That's the color of close deletion. Then I can have Nebraska, okay. I can do a highlight. And I can ignore, let's say World War II, I don't care about this for him. Okay, and I do ignore. There will be still another one that is split, that is similar to the extracting. If this sounds familiar, it's none other than those classes: closed, extract, highlight, and ignore. Okay. So this has a name and is process text. What's the definition of process text in SuperMemo? Text that the user required to select and perform an action. This action can be close deletion, extracting, splitting, ignoring, highlighting, whatever. But it required a selection with the exception of splitting. Okay, but the splitting requires to trigger the split. So there's a manual trigger from the user anyways. Then let's say that, hey, I have here a lot of stuff that I imagine that they have a lot more. Hey, I want to see what's actually unprocessed. I can do that. Right click, reading. We have seen delete before cursor and after cursor. Now we're going to do the next one, delete process text. Hey, that's actually not what I thought, right? I did this on purpose. So you could see what exactly is considered process text. Can you take a guess? Close deletion is not process text. And highlight is not process text. Ignore, it is. This is like mind-blowing that why ignore, that is not important, is considered processed. And highlight, that, hey, I'm making emphasis, this is really important, is not considered processed. And on the others too, when I do an extract, is considered processed, but not when I do a close deletion. So remember, if you have the flow, usually will be the case that you just do extracts, and every repetition you do extract, pam, pam, pam. Now it's dummy, I do just a paragraph. It don't have to be, for instance, it could be just this, not the entire paragraph. Next repetition. Da, 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 da. Nice. And you do like this. Then this shows once again. And shows up here, right? And you continue. Then what you will do is right click, read, delete process text, and it's just you get rid of the highlights and you can continue. Then the use case that I see for that is if the text is slow, so SuperMemo is slowing down the performance because of the amount of text there are, especially if there are many inline images in the same piece of text, then you do it just because of performance. And as you read, you can get rid of those extra text. Another solution would be to preemptively split because of performance reasons. We have seen that. But if the text is not split friendly, that's what you can do. One of the reasons. There are some more outlier cases, and very specific, when it's a glossary. So I'm processing the glossary, since everyone is independent of each other, and it's by alphabetical order, let me delete the ones I have processed. So I don't have to scroll that much. That's it. And that's what I call incremental done. Because instead of applying done and get rid of the components, I get rid of what I have processed. This makes also a difference, which is the introduction to the second use case, that is when you have a huge topic, even though it runs well, there's no performance issue, perhaps it's so long that it loads in creates a text registry, the file, to be very high. What creates is that then, because this it's a 400 pages long, but imagine that this is equivalent of a book of 400 pages book with no images. That's why there's no performance handicap. But this will happen that this massive text registry member in the text registry makes the text registry to be so high, so the file size, that then you cannot do the Git backup solution because of that. Just to mention one of the cases. But again, I'm not even telling you, I'm just announcing it without showing it to you because are already diminishing returns. And we are in the Fluency track. So just remember, time to time, this could be interesting to do, delete process text, but I spent time in this video to define what in SuperMemo is processed text, because this will have a consequence elsewhere, in some other places in the collection. That's what do you mean by processed text. So you know what happens in SuperMemo. You can import whatever you want, and if it's long, you will just scroll, right? Oh, this is short. Oh, this is super long, right? I need to scroll a lot more. But we only have the size of the bar to make something heuristic. Then, did you know we can use a trick to repurpose to discover the precise size, exactly, specifically the size it has. And it's easier than you think. Now, let's recap what we have seen so far. Simply speaking, what is this? It's an HTML component. The HTML contains HTML, right? It's not plain text. Awesome. Therefore, this is actually saved as HTML with all of the code. So there will be longer size, more characters than if it was plain text. Then we also know that this is not here. This is in a registry. Therefore, we can actually go there. I don't need to search for it. I don't need to go to search text registry and search it. It's already here. So right click, links, registry member, and I'm already there. Autopoiesis. And here you go, without doing anything else, I already have the size in bytes. But hey, I have the size in bytes, not the length in characters. It's the same, because it's encoded in Unicode. So the more characters, the more bytes there will be. Easy. Then, that doesn't mean it has 112,000 characters. It depends on the HTML. If there's a lot of inline styling, it will be super high, but the content is just a small subset of the plain text. And if it rather uses plain text, most of that will be actual content. There's a limitation we cannot differentiate, but at least the code, without if it's content or just code, we can see that. So now I can tell you this is 112,000 bytes, precisely. And if I edit this, that, hey, I don't want the references. I get rid of them. Now we have seen how. Alt join, delete after the cursor. Now I do the same thing, Ctrl K, Ctrl Shift K. Imagine how quick it is. Ctrl Shift K. Now in my case, it loads slow because it's huge, my text registry. And now it's 31 bytes. So what we discovered is that 90,000 bytes were actually the references. Wow. So like, I don't know, 3/4 of the page were just the references. It's absurd, right? So actually the stuff that I need to read is a lot lower. It's not as daunting as before. Awesome. And just to let you know that you can sort by size. So what we did is, hey, I want to know this specific element, what size it is, the length, and one can simplify that 1 byte is 1 character, even though there's code and so on. And with this, I can know which will be the biggest. Now I will cancel because this will be very slow. Great resignation. Here you go, 500,000. So this could be interesting. That let's say that you're hitting the ceiling of 100 megabytes text registry. You may want to delete those. Not delete those or process those. That, oh, look at this. It's one of the top 8, I think. And look, it's just one article about, it's just one scientific article about a few pages. It will be PDF. Contains a lot of metadata, links, and so on. It's actually not that long to read. It will take me 20 minutes to read, something like that. I can do a subset review, and tackle those, and greatly reduce the file size of the text registry. Just one example. We have seen how we can see, heuristically, the length of the article without copy-pasting every time by just going to the component, member, and seeing the bytes. Okay. Then what if I ask more humanly that, hey, I don't care about the code, I want just the content, but I'm lazy, I want to do it from SuperMemo. You can actually do it in how many pages there are. If I want to print this, or this will be printed, how many pages there will be. This is more relevant for me to assess the size than not 30,000 bytes. That doesn't tell me something concrete. I can actually do it. So we're going to do also a peek of what is possible in the mastery track. This will be unlocking tens of different flows. While we right-click HTML component, we're getting the menu from SuperMemo. But we know that we use the ms.html.ll tool, which mimics the barebone version of Internet Explorer. That means we have an option here, browser menu, and now I have the menu of what? Internet Explorer. That's why it's so crappy and useless, right? And I have so many errors already. But hey, there's one that is called print preview. Here you go. So now I know that with my styling, by the way, as long as I always use the same styling, which is the case, all of the topics use the same font and so on, now I know it's 13 pages. How long is this article? 50,000 characters. No, not necessarily, because 50,000 code characters, not content, right? But if there are images, then okay, so it will be print, how many there will be? Here you have it, 13. Then if I go to another one, let's say, this is already processed. That's a good example. It's already processed. I always have to see also in Wikipedia. Let's do it once again. Browser menu and pre-preview. 22. So even though the text is no longer there, I only have to see also This is longer than the other article, entirely without the references. So imagine how absurd that is. External links. Look how many, those are not references. Look how many links I have that I can click. This will take me years to explore. Awesome. This is a good approach like this, situation recognition, that it's like too much for me. I cannot make this heuristically, it's too large. I need to put a number, right? Easy. Right click, browser menu, right click again, pre-preview. Wait a little. 42. Now I know that this is twice as long as the other one, regardless of how much metadata there is. Cool trick, right? And this is a preview because with this menu, you can do some weird stuff that is what the F, but this is extremely machine returns. Believe me, this is the most useful trick you can use. Let's say mainstream. The others are extremely concrete and specific. But again, I like to put some previews here and there in the Fluency track. Let's continue with the text, editing text in SuperMemo. Another useful case are the links. In this case is, hey, how do I know this is underlined or is actually a link? It's because if I hover, the icon stays the same, the pointer stays the same. So therefore this is just underlined. Awesome. Then if we go to any page that I imported, then this color means it's a link. If I click, I open it within the component, something you will rather not want to do, because look at this, it looks awful. Just so you know it's possible. If you shift, click, then this will pop up with what? With the almighty Internet Explorer. Then if I right click and open a new window, is also Internet Explorer. That could depend if you use Windows 11 and you have changed your default. In this case, it will open the default, especially if you have it running. It's the only case. But the shift click, this would open regardless of your Windows version. And that's actually the trick I use to open it. Because Windows is hiding Internet Explorer, it doesn't let you trigger it. So this is one of the dummy things you can do. Just shift click any link in SuperMemo and you will get it. Nice. If you remember, if you just click, it's within SuperMemo, and then you can just use your default browser, or you can also go to edit, open web links. I have all of the links that are in the HTML component. Let's just select one and open your default browser in this case. So now you know, depending of what you want, is I know this for sure, I want to import it and I want to use Internet Explorer. Shift click and I'm going to read it and I'm going to import it right away. Here, and I use the old importer, or I can use the new importer, and boom, I import it right away. Or I want to quickly check, is this what I thought? Movements, oh yeah, okay, gotcha. You know what, I don't need to import this. That's it, I continue. Another thing you can do with hyperlinks, right click, hey, what is this menu? That we use opening a window. Why was Internet Explorer? Because this is none other than the equivalent menu of Internet Explorer. It's what we actually used when we go to browser menu. And now we print the preview, it's the same thing. Then, those are the hyperlinks that are in the text. SuperMemo also have hyperlinks in the references that I can have one. Do you see? The numbers is a concept group. If I click, I will go to the element that is this concept, cognition. Baboom. It's here. Okay. I can do the same with parent. I click, and I go on the parent. In this case, the parent is the same thing, it's the same element, but not necessarily it's the same one. And I knew it was the same because the number is the same, by the way. You also have the link of Wikipedia. If I click, has the same effect. It opens within SuperMemo. But if I click it from here, the source, take a peek, it opens on your default browser. So we are seeing redundancy of features, but with a small difference. That I want to use my default browser, click here instead if you want to open the link. That you want within SuperMemo, click it here instead. This is just an overview, just to let you know that you can also create hyperlinks. And those hyperlinks could be to our websites, could be to other elements in your collection, or even scripts, or something else. But this is part of only the mastery. There will be no need for you to make hyperlinks for Fluency. The use case is very limited. It depends how you use SuperMemo. You won't rely on that, almost never. So that is more or less everything you need to know for the Fluent about hyperlinks in SuperMemo. So let's continue with the editing and styling with editing the text in SuperMemo. And then, if you remember the importer, the web import, it contains this, the mode, HTML, and so on. You could right click and do parse, Ctrl P. This is none other than the Zander Parser. This exists as a website. Articleparser.win is done by one SuperMemo user, by the way. Then, let me go to something I know that it's in Spanish, no worries, but it contains a lot of ads and tries, right? Okay. Do you see? Okay. So then I just copy and paste the link here, but it didn't work this time. Let me do something about memory that is not Wikipedia. Merriam, let's do this. Look what happened. Okay, I just have the definitions. Do you see all of this here? And that's about it. This is super useful because it's super friendly for SuperMemo. I get rid of the styling, but not the HTML. So if it contains a hyperlink, I keep that hyperlink. When I do Ctrl-Shift F12, I get rid of all of the styling, yes, but all of the code. Therefore, all the hyperlinks as well. Then you will import this tab. Has the downside of the reference, because this reference is different. It's not Merriam-Webster. It's articleparser.win, So as long as you always use the parser, it's okay, because the URL will be the same. But if you came across the original, SuperMemo will not detect the duplicate. Okay. But it's not the problem. The problem is that sometimes you have images that are crucial, are diagrams and so on, and are stripped, like if they were ads. Here, some other people reported this issue, and here we have some examples. For instance, here the abstract is gone. Let's try that. Then I want to import, but it already says main. Abstract data, it starts with main, right? So all of this is gone, and you don't want that. So sometimes it has some false positives, let's say, that deletes content. It's pretty damn convenient because look how clean it is. I only have the bolding, the hyperlinks with the code. This is extremely friendly for SuperMemo. It will also have, and in this case I have math. Okay, no worries. the file size will be lower. But if I import this, I'm losing, in this case, the abstract. It could be the case that I'm deleting content without knowing I'm actually deleting content. So now that I import this, I import both. I did the problem. Oh my god. Well, in this case it failed. Sorry about that. But you get the point. Sorry, I had the selection. Let me do it once again. Now, do you see now? I'm turning a bug in SuperMemo. This is already reported. Okay, no worries. The point of this video is to let you know that once you import and you select mode, parse, actually SuperMemo is doing this. And it's not using the same tool, it's using the tool. Meaning this is sent elsewhere to a server, it's parsed, and then you download it. Meaning that if you send personal data or confidential data, this is being sent to a server. Just to let you know what you're doing. And it's not disclosed. You think you're doing this locally in SuperMemo when it's not. Perhaps this has been changed because some person complained about this for privacy reasons. But if you use SuperMemo 19 point something, that is not point 1, it's very likely this is still being sent. Then what to do depends on you. If it's high priority, I'm not taking any chance. I will just import everything, even if it looks like crap. This is something large. Perhaps you want to reduce the file size, but then I will still check. And if it's low priority and one section was deleted, not a big deal. It was low priority anyways. If you ask me personally, I want to be consistent, so I never use it. I want to keep all of the material. The choice is yours, but at least make an informed decision from now on. That's all you need to know for now. And remember, this is only for SuperMemo 19. The 18 doesn't have that. We're going to see how we can actually get rid of the styling, delete the styling in an HTML component, even though it's not precisely this. We're doing something else. So if I go now to any place, let's say, hey, I don't want the styling, right? What I can do is make the selection Ctrl+Shift+1. Sometimes it doesn't work because of the limitation of MS HTML.dll tool. So you know what? Let me do the entire thing. Ctrl+Shift+12. But this is the entire component, not just a selection. And it's, hey, I got rid of the styling. Yes, but that's not what you did. What you did actually is converting the HTML to plain text. So as a consequence, you have deleted the styling, but you deleted the entire thing. So you also deleted, among other things, all of the code. The hyperlinks and all of that. Metadata, everything has been deleted. So remember, even though SuperMemo is presenting you this feature as deleting styling, you delete the entire HTML. That you don't care about the hyperlinks, like this case. Okay, it's what I wanted. Now I have plain text. Sometimes, in this case, it was not a big deal, but sometimes it adds a font that is hard to read, or it's blue over a sheet of blue that it is really hard to see. The color contrast is very small. You just get rid of it, plain text, you can read it and forget about it. How you do it? Ctrl+Shift+F12. That is already text, like in this case. No difference. But remember, you cannot undo this. Now we're going to see how we can filter an HTML component. It's super easy to do. Select the component and F6. Here you go. By default, you have some options: advertising, comments, buttons, scripts, and frames. Then you also have other options. What you consider is useful are styles, when are declared inline instead of using a class, and fonts, especially when SuperMemo converts weird stuff to font tags, or they actually use the ancient font tags. You can get rid of those, which basically is not covered on the styles. That will be most of what you will need usually. You also have tables. You can remove them if you don't care, or bulletize if you want to create some flashcards out of them. So we're going to see it. What it does is it duplicates one of the columns every single time, so you can do the selection and closure every single time without you repeating the header. Use case too narrow for the Fluency. And the spacing is usually not a big deal. And one last thing, the undo is not what you will think. It's, oh, finally, an undo feature in SuperMemo. What it does, it pre-appends Z at the beginning and at the end of what it changed, so you can undo it, manually undo it, back to what it was before. But you have to do it manually. It just adds some gibberish, so it's easy to select. So let's see one example. Okay, usually this comes from Wikipedia. SuperMemo has a built-in parser for Wikipedia, so usually that's not a big deal. Okay, so we'll import one page of probiotics. Okay, so at least I already know that, hey, that's not how it looks, right? Look how it is, the website. I'm getting something already. The picture is out of bounds, and so on. So what I can do is F6, remove styling and fonts. Ta-da! That was the thing with the image. So now I can continue as expected. So I still lose some of the stuff here. Contents, links, they look weird because the primitive support of HTML or CSS in SuperMemo, but it's something I can read. Awesome. Nice. And here about the blue spirulina and the green spirulina. What is this? In fact, this is a table. Do you see it? Okay. So if I press F6 and then I remove table, let's see, it's no longer there. This is usually the case when, especially if it's a Wikipedia page with a lot of formulas, formulae, and tables and so on, is I don't care about any of those, so boop, I'll wait to delete them all super quickly. That is another example. It's a archives paper. Usually you have like this that it looks like an iframe. It's embedded in an object. You see I have a second scroll bar. And I have tables, right? So for the sake of the example, what is left, I will put bulletize so you can see it, and enable undo. Let me put style so at least I can confirm something will be converted. And that is how you choose bulleted points. Use the first row for column headers or add column bullets. Depends how you want to create the flashcards, but we're not going to see this in detail now. Not in the Fluency. The point is that now it will look different than before. Do you see? Not the best example, but it repeats the header. S1 is the code number, tablets is the product type, and the country of origin is Australia, and so on. So now you can do an extract out of this and do the close deletion. You don't have to repeat the headers, basically. The same for now spirulina. Do you see? Repeats spirulina, samples, and heavy metals. Awesome. So now, the last thing we can have is, let's do undo. Ctrl Z, it's not undoing anything. Yeah, because this undo is not really an undo. It's just some very cheap convention. So if you check the source, wait a second, it needs to be saved, the file. Okay. Now here, somewhere, do you see? ZZZ diff. That was a diff that was removed. That means that if I want to undo, I will need to do find and replace ZZZ to nothing, but could be the case that ZZZ existed in the article. It's unlikely, but it's not bulletproof. So if I do it, at match case, by the way, replace all, and I save again, now I will, let me refresh. Now it will be like before, but not exactly like before, because bulletized tables cannot be undone. This is already converted. But at least the view styling we re-added and all of that, it looks as before. I think it was not like this before. So good to know, but again, that's why I wanted to do the emphasis on the undo, even though what I had to use is something that we don't see, the bulletized tables. Don't think this undo is a real undo. What I suggest, if you are unsure, is first duplicate the element, perform the filter, and then you get a successful result, delete it, and repeat the process on the genuine topic you wanted to do, not the duplicate. This is safer. And it's super convenient, especially fonts. Some cases you manually paste from the clipboard. Usually you want to do fonts or styles most of the time. And one last thing. Every day you start SuperMemo, when you go to the filter, it is reset. It doesn't remember what you have selected. And there's no way to remember this. So every single time you will need to check the boxes, unless you use AutoHotkey, which you will see in the mastery track. So we have seen more or less an overview of how we can edit in SuperMemo, the text and so on. Just to let you know that you can actually edit outside of it. So what you see here, welcome to Pleasurable Learning and so on, I can right-click, File, View File, or F9, and this opens in my browser. I can also do File and Edit File, adding the control modifier. Do you see what happens? Well, it's another component. It's in a different place. Okay. But it opened in the browser anyways. That depends on your computer in your settings of default. By default, the websites will be open where? The text will be open with app and so on. I still have more. View source, Shift Ctrl F6. In this case, defaults to Notepad. So now I can see the plain text, it is header 1, is header 1, and so on. For instance, the P tag here is not closed. Something I realized just now. It's one of the options. So what I could do here is editing the HTML, but it's not limited to HTML. I could edit that I don't want the space, I want to edit whatever. I save the contents, and here you go, now there's no space. So you can edit this, by default it's not bad, you can change it to whatever you want. SuperMemo cannot pinpoint which app to use, will point to the default of Windows. So you can default this, default apps. It will look slightly different in Windows 11. Web browser, Chrome. That's why it always was set to Chrome. And then you can also do it by file, so if it's TXT, HTML, and whatever other kind of text, you could pinpoint. Or more obscurely, something we will see in the mastery track, with scripts, so the element contains the scripts, this will open in this specific app that I mentioned, regardless of what you have in the defaults. But this is a lot more obscure than you can imagine. So remember, something we don't cover either in the mastery is that you can go to the edit panel, make bold, italics, underscore, some of the basic styling, or add colors. Colors we have like this. Please don't. If it's like this, that is like the dashboard, okay, in your root element. But for whatever you do, don't spend time unless you are writing. It's incremental writing. If it's so you're going to use this styling to be published. If it's for you, do not even use that. It's a waste of time. Just use what there's key binding, like bolding and so on. And other than that, don't spend time making it pretty. First, it's SuperMemo. It's very elemental. Second, it's very easy to be lost because of the limitations of the MS-HTML.dll, the tool that is simulating a strapped-down version of Internet Explorer. You will carry on, as we have seen, the styling and so on. And later on, you will delete it anyways because you keep only the items. And in the items, at most, you will have some bolding and stuff like this at most. So that's my point. You can edit externally, just to let you know this exists. And you can do the basic stuff in SuperMemo, but it's so buggy and tediously difficult, it's not worth it. And that makes the difference, for instance, against RemNote, because RemNote, you take notes. Those are permanent, and then you have the flashcards and so on. Here, you adapt topics, you transform the topics to your own words, or you make the glossolation, and then you adapt to your own words later, but the content, the source, is deleted sooner or later. It mutates, and then it's deleted, or it's deleted right away, because you do the glossolation at one go. Then why should I put colors, make it pretty, if I will delete it anyways? Is not the best use of your time. That's why I want to conclude the section with this. Not just the fact that you can, yes, you can open debugging, that, hey, something is not working, let me see, oh, okay, this is dummy, those spans are dummy because they are closed but never open, stuff like that, okay. But for regular reading, it looks like crap, it is what it is, you just adapt. And as last resort, plain text. This creates a lot of friction. Then I suggest other videos about SuperMemo if this creates friction for you. But it's not the end case. It's not that a big deal. You just simplify the approach and that's it. We're going outside of the scope of this video. So we're going to introduce finally something rather important. Details, but important. We're not in the diminishing returns still. And are the red points. What is this? Is that in incremental reading, if I click on, let me do a subset review of topics. Do you see, if it's the first repetition, or I'm at the beginning because I have deleted the text, I will be at the top. Do you see the scroll bar? In this case, no. I'm in this part of the article, and SuperMemo scrolls there directly. It doesn't start here. I already focused on that. Why? Because automatically, when you do your reps and you edit and so on, SuperMemo remembers where you left. So if I made this selection to make an extract, SuperMemo knows my cursor was here when I click next repetition. Therefore here, something called read point or red point is added. But it has no visual feedback. You won't see it. And what's the purpose? The next time you visit the same element, you will go to the same place, but only true on the time of the repetition. Meaning, if I go somewhere else, and now I go back, it doesn't scale. Why? Because I'm not doing the repetition. It just makes sense. If I do it during the repetition, here you go, it does. A small detail. And then you can also do this artificially. Let's say that I read, too tiny. Okay, next. Next. Okay. Let's say I want to keep the list. Information, okay. I want to continue up here. I did all of the informations. So where my cursor is, I right click, reading, red points, and set the red point is always F7. The modifier is what makes the difference. Set, it's control. It's not, I don't see it, but it's there. Meaning that next time I will click on learn, it goes there. Do you see? It's not at the top of it. This is useful when I have no action. That there's nothing I wanted to highlight, there's nothing I wanted to extract or anything, but I have read something. I don't want to repeat this. What I could do? I could just delete this because I have read, but in this case I want to keep because they are hyperlinks. Therefore, it's like the old school physical book that, hey, I have read until this page. That bookmark. Same here. So you can set it artificially. When SuperMemo always does it behind the curtains. This is with F7, remember, Control F7. Reading, red points, Control F7. With Alt, I navigate there, meaning that if what I do, my flow, is manually navigating the knowledge tree, then in this case it's very simple because I can still see the text. But sometimes I will need to scroll, so I have no idea. What I will do, hey, it's already there because it's my next repetition, sorry about that. Now it is, because what? I have done this artificially, outside of the repetition. Let's simplify, let's assume we're here. Hey, it's not Control, it's Alt. Alt F7, here it is. So I don't need to scroll, hey, where do I left, or I wanted to, let's say it has some number here in the text, it's doing a reference, a citation. Hey, let me see which one it is. Oh yeah, it goes this one. Nielsen, okay, let me import that or whatever. Hey, let me go back where I was. Instead of manually going up and look for this, you just do Alt F7 and in an instant you're there. Pretty convenient. In some cases, especially for very long topics that you care about all of the content or most of the content, what you're going to do is, okay, I have, let's do another one. I have read this, I have skipped this, but it's really long, not like this one, but really, really long. Then instead of what we have seen of deleting the text, the process text, no, I want to keep it. I want to be able to still have it for reference and so on. What I will do instead is let me go back to the top and read once again, but only what is not highlighted. Highlighted in colors, I mean. I don't mean highlighted with highlight specifically, but anything that adds color. Processed? No, because processed, for instance, constellation is not considered processed text in SuperMemo. So any action you perform that adds some color, here you go. Then you say, let me read this, let me read that, and so on. I have like a second go on the article, but not entirely because I will skip what is already processed. But I don't want to delete what is processed. What we'll do is reading, red points, and clear. Delete. And if you delete the red point, it's the same as setting it on the top. Has the same effect. So I could go manually here and set it here, Control F7, has the same effect that just getting rid of it with what? Do you remember? It's not Alt, it's both. It's with Shift and Control. It's a lot easier than you think. Control to create, add the Shift to delete. And to navigate, it's Alt. Easy, in this order. I do this scarcely, but it's pretty convenient to do it. Especially for textbooks and super long articles. Pretty convenient. Especially if you do one repetition a day, like I did, that I have some articles that I did 70 repetitions in a year. It's pretty convenient that, hey, let me go back, because I don't do this linearly. Read points, red points in SuperMemo. See incrementally. In the mastery track, we will see the ins and outs, pros and cons, the flows in detail, because you could kind of repurpose or go into the dark side and do some trickery. But for the fluency, one video is enough. Oh my god, finally one slideshow in this section. It's been a while. So now that we have seen the red points, that's something we have to take into look. The two phases of the enter key in SuperMemo. Because to click on learn is Ctrl L, but also enter. To show answer in an item, it's a space, but also enter. But if you're editing text, enter is a new line, break, or the next repetition. It has two functionalities and depends, the key factor here is the red point, what we have learned. The default role of enter is the accelerator. That you're reviewing cards, topics, you press enter, you go to the cycle. Show me the answer. That the answer is shown, accept the grade. So move to the next card. Well, the next specifically would be to the next element. You don't know if it will be an item. The goal is to make the process fast. You focus on the content, it's just the next thing I can do. Enter, enter, next, next. But there's one exception, and it's if you do enter when you have a red point. Or when you have any text selected. Remember, when I select text, SuperMemo is expecting you to do something. A close relation, an extract, is the starting point for an user to take an action that will create elements, right? So what happens now if I press enter? Can you guess? It went to the next element, even though I had text selected. It didn't create a new line break. But if I am here with no text selected and I do enter, it creates a new line break. Why? Because the HTML component is selected. Therefore, and the cursor is here. If I deselect it with the escape, and now I press enter, it defaults to this button, the learn. Here you go, has the same effect. Awesome. Then, the behavior, instead of inserting a new line, pressing enter will begin or resume the learning repetitions, what we have seen. Why? Because SuperMemo assumes that if you set a red point from the next logical action, because SuperMemo assumes that if you set a red point, then the next action you will do is move on, because you're doing incremental reading. Is, hey, I have read until here, is because I'm not going to continue reading, right? That's why the next default option is defaulting to this button. And if you had that selected, you didn't want to edit the text. You want perhaps to perform an action. Perhaps you don't want, no, it doesn't deserve the consolation. I just move on and continue. So the analogy, think of it as a car ignition. Normally, you're on the key to start the engine. But if the car is already running, for instance, you're in the learning block, the learning queue, outstanding queue, subset queue, whatever, turning the key again, there's something different. The enter adapts to the context of your task. Here you go. So then, taking back control, if you really want it, you can edit the supermemo.ini, and in this line, allow red point enter, put it to 1. Then you will change this default behavior. This depends if for you it's a deal breaker that you really dislike this. Your brain defaults to the other paradigm, let's say the other flow. You just change it to 1, save, and you will have the other behavior. Depends on you. For me, the one I need is the one that is built in, so I don't have any friction. Just in case, here you go. And again, it's one of the examples that a newbie or even a user who has been using SuperMemo for years but only knows the surface of what's happening on the software will say, hey, SuperMemo with crap. Why this behavior with this other behavior? What is inconsistent? It's full of bugs. It's actually not. In this case, it's a feature. They just don't know the red points. Since they're not visually represented, they don't even understand what they're colliding with. Why I have this here and not there? Hey, because in one case you have the red point and the other you don't. That's the difference, right? This is one example. There have been more examples that I didn't explicitly mention. That some newbies are like, oh my god, this is crap, when actually they are not understanding the situation and it's a feature. It's pretty damn consistent, which is actually rare. You will see a lot of different contexts, and SuperMemo behaves the same. Is a feature, has done on purpose, and it's not as buggy as you may think of. So that's all you need to know about the space, about the enter, and especially when it collides with the red points. And another sneak peek for the mastery track. Now it's time to dig deeper into images. We have seen more or less, more in detail, the text. Now let's see the images. There's quite a lot to unpack here. In the Fluency, we'll just see the most useful stuff. Just to let you know that there's quite a lot more of features of doing returns in SuperMemo relating to images. But we're going to start from the beginning, which is the registry. So this image that you see here, the logo of Pleasurable Learning, it's an image. For many videos, I also have this image. So everything that is stored in SuperMemo goes to the registry, image registry. Then here I have the list of all of the registry members. You may notice that there's some color coding. This means PNG, the yellow. The orange means GIF. That means PNG, GIF. And then you have another one for MVP, which I don't use because the file size is absurdly high. Then here, as always, since it's a registry, we can see sort by frequency, which one I'm reusing the most, or by size, which images take the most size if you want to resize them. Something more obscure that we're not going to see. And you can do subsets and all of this. Then usually, this is not that useful as how it might seem now, but this reusing the images through the registry becomes a big deal. Not because you reuse the images, so therefore you don't waste storage. That today we could afford wasting storage. Is that I can reuse that, so I can see whatever else this is used. You see list, and this is used in agreeableness. Why? Why this portrait is related to this? It's a personality trait. It's represented in this picture. So it's not just about art. Meaning that those perhaps isolated or perhaps not related directly, they are directly related through the image component. The image registry member. That's powerful. That's a semantic connection. That is one of the reasons that it's useful to use the image registry. So we're going to see a few things about the registry. We have seen the color coding already, no mystery. So for the Fluent, just to let you know, you have the color coding, and you can also filter by that. So you can do selection, subset, and one of those. PNG, yellow. GIF, orange. JPEG or JPEG without the E doesn't have any color, and bitmap, it will have a different color, but it's very likely you're not going to have any of those, like it's my case. Other than that, you have the search, which will be useful. And one last point, you can have like this that is gibberish, like this figure that means nothing. So it's always appreciated if you spend some time making a title, a name for the registry member, so it's easier to then search and reuse it. but we're not going to focus on that. Let's see now the two ways to get images into SuperMemo. Most likely, if I click on Learn, and this appears, then this article contains already images, but those images are inside the HTML component. It's actually being rendered by the ms.html.dll, if you remember. Meaning, this has been downloaded from the servers. I don't have this. Which this may lead that if the article is no longer available or the entire website is down and so on, you won't have the picture anytime. So we're going to import the images. Ctrl F8, instead of Shift, it's Ctrl, and basically gets the images inside the code, because this is HTML code. And then I can have whatever I want. I can select that, oh no, I only want this one in particular. Or you know what, I want them all, and insert. If we click on insert, SuperMemo will create one image component per image here. So in this case, 5. And it resizes them automatically. Then, oh, it's too tiny, I cannot see that. Right? You can click and press F9, and this opens on your browser. Turns out the original size is actually more or less the same, but at least I can resize. Nice. Then, this is the easiest way because you contain the highest quality. You're not losing, sacrificing any quality. Then, if what I did was copying through the clipboard, and now I paste, create new component, yes. Now it's asking me the name of the registry member, the image registry member. This is different because when I used the importer, I didn't. And it had this the default name it has in the website, which is gibberish. For me, this will be impossible to search in the registry to come across, hey, I wanted this image, and it happens to be Tumblr, and I'm guessing that's the ID, and that's the size, the resolution. But the text, if we now open this, is the name, that's the title of the element, parentheses, component number. In this case, I already had 5 images, and the text, 6 components, that becomes the 7th component. That is more or less the placeholder. So already we see a difference of the preemptive name if you don't change it. On top of that, now if I press F9, you realize that the quality is quite different. Do you see it? There's a quite major loss. Even the color is different, the orange, right? That's because I use a clipboard, and SuperMemo, because it was designed for 3 decades ago, that the storage was very expensive, it compresses the image a lot. And today, unnecessarily, it's too much. But as a user, I cannot toggle this off. So by clipboard, SuperMemo is designed like this, and there's no way you can avoid that. I don't know how hard it would be to make such an option, to untoggle the compression. That's why you should use another import method, like Ctrl F8, to import the images. This is lossless. I have even the file size here. Or there's yet another way with Ctrl Q. Let me go to somewhere else because I have so many images already. Oh wow, it's the first result. Okay, let's say I want to do this. This is especially useful if you want to use your own screenshots and so on, or you use AI. Okay, I do copy image. I paste it here. But look. No. Do you want to apply a similar template? Why is asking me this? Because I added one image component, and happens that this concept group, that is root, has set this option. You want to apply a similar template? Yeah, let's sure. Okay. So what just happened? Just one pause. I had the root concept, right? If you remember, then we have item and article templates set by default. And this is added. Look at the checkbox. But the article has no component for images. Then it's asking me, hey, do you want to apply the article image? Because there's one image component. Yes, you can say it. So if you want. If my template article already had space, already had components for images, I will not have been asked that. And why before I was not asked? Because I added 4 images or 5 images. I had no template for that. In this case, it's just one. Nice. So remember, when you have the opportunity to go to the same name plus picture, SuperMemo will ask you. Even though it's not the point of this video, it's important to know. Then we know this is has been heavily reduced. The quality has been compressed. Then what I could do instead is, no. Let me go here. I select the component, the image component. I press Alt-Q or image, links. I can press Alt-Q or right-click, file, and import file. And this opens the computer. I can browse, and I can cherry pick. In this case, I will put this, that is dummy. It's actually the same size. I mean the ratio, casually. Ask for a name. You get all of the path. There's only for this. So here I could say 5-year anniversary of SuperMemo, and then AI, because I want to know it's AI generated. Do you want to leave the imported file in the original location? Yes. Because it depends on your flow. If you have like a dummy folder that this goes incrementally to SuperMemo, you want to get rid of them, so you don't have any duplicate. And here you go. This has no quality loss. That means that if you want to always have the same quality, especially the case for large images, especially with text, diagrams, and so on, especially if you are going to use image occlusion, either use Alt-Q if it comes from your computer, or Ctrl F8 if you have it on the topic. Easy. So we have seen a preview of the 3 different ways to add images in SuperMemo. Clipboard, downloading from the HTML, and locally from the computer. Now we're going to see some features or settings relating to images, but how it is displayed in the image component. So now we're not going to convert the types and so on. So this image you have seen already many times. Okay. Then let me move this component out. Then, when you hover, you have the name of the registry member, the size, in parentheses, the resolution, the date it was imported, and the place where it is. And then elements in some of the users. How many elements are using? So it turns out this image is only here. The other one has 7. Awesome. But hey, what happened? Now the title is different. It's no longer the original. We have changed that. So if I'm really strict, I will need to modify its name, links, and rename, or Alt-R. And now I have to get rid of this. A readable stock image. Here you go. Okay. Then about how it fits. Now if I resize this, I have some empty space, right, at the bottom. So right click, image, and it says fit size. And you have some options. Size of the stretched picture, the actual size of the bitmap image, and the image component. Okay, if I do the last option, Hey, what happened? It is the other way around you may think of. So the image component has been resized to the 100% of the image. It is 512 by 626. It was higher, but there's no need to, because the image is like this, meaning the image will need to zoom in. But hey, if I stretch or make it wider, this is changing. How so? This is very weird, right? Right click, image, fit size, and then we have done the first one. Let's do the second one, the actual size of the bitmap image. This is without scaling. First, it scaled only on the height, and it was narrower because it was the space available in the container on the image component. Now this is boss. No. I will overrule the component of any dimension to have the image at 100%. That's the resolution. 500 per 600 and something. Awesome. So now we have understood the option. Then, if we go another time, fit size, and we do this once again, no change. Why? Because the image component has been resized. Now let's do it like this. It's A. That's not what I wanted, because that looked pretty because it resized the component. If I resize it back, now I'm cropping the image. That's not what I want. So if I go to image and fit size, and I select the actual size of the bitmap image, it resizes back, and I have the same problem once again. Then, if I do fit size and the size of the image component, hey, that's the same thing. It does the same thing now because it defaults to the size of the image, but as soon as I move, hey, what's the same thing? What is happening here? It's because the fit size is only relating the image with the image component. Actually, we're mixing something, and it's a stretch. So what we were expecting is found here. Normal, okay, same thing. Stretch, proportional. That's what I was hoping before, right? Meaning that you scale, but if one of the dimensions is shorter, you just keep the ratio, right? As now you cannot grow anymore, and now there's not enough space to grow fully. But if I make this larger, then this is above 100%. The image is not that high. If this makes sense. Awesome. So now we have stretch and fit size. Just to let you know, you have field. Field is just do whatever it takes to fill in all of the area of the component. So there's no gray area. That means that the aspect ratio won't be kept at the expense of always resizing. That depends on what you want. If it's image occlusion, which you will see in the mastery track only, then you want this. Because then the next time that you change the screen resolution, the shapes will be in the same place. They will move accordingly to the size. So if you use image occlusion, you are forced to the image stretch of field. Then just to let you know that with Shift Ctrl Q you can toggle. Shift Ctrl Q. Do you see? Pam. This is field. Then this is the default, whatever the image is, and that's a fitting. The names are actually normal and proportional. Normal, whatever the image is. Proportional, whatever the image is, but adjusted to whatever dimension is higher. So therefore there will be some empty space. Like here, the empty space is vertical or could be horizontal, depending on what is more limiting, the measured bottleneck. And the field is all of the space. So now we have a combination of this and fit size. Now this won't do anything, the size of the image component. Yep, it does. See, the only difference is that it resets the ratio. And that's it, because it was narrower. But at any degree, it has the same behavior. It's filled. There's no gray area. Nice. If we do it once again, image, and now we do the size of the stretch picture, hey, this has moved something, right? That's not what I wanted. This looks more like a feature about components. It's not what I wanted at all. There's no undo, so I need to resize it quickly. And finally, the actual size of the bitmap image. Again, it moves a little the other components. So I hope with this very same example you can understand what you want. First, you will have outlier cases that, hey, I only want this particular image in this element because it's very big, it's a diagram, I need the diagram full screen. Well, let's do this. Okay. See, I'm making something like this, that, hey, I have empty space here, right? I want to maximize it. Then image, stretch, filled. And it's as big as possible within the constraints of the template. Or if I have to template, like now, the element. So the use cases, we're not going to have videos for the use cases in the Fluency track for images, but just to let you know that it is in this case I want this picture, so I don't care about templates, and this will be larger than usual. I do it. Or it's very important to keep the ratio because it's, I don't know, it's about design and so on. So I have to look at the things how they are, not just with the different ratios and so on. Or just is aesthetically pleasant, whatever that is. Those are the stretches. And filled, you are forced if you use image occlusion. And fit size, it will be the case that, okay, I want to adjust this, so from now on I will use this element to save it as a template. So I will have a template for diagrams or flowcharts, right? And you want to be precise. But no, let me use whatever the image is. So I don't have the image reduced or zoomed. I want the actual size, right? Other than that, there's an option. There's another flow for the Fluency. We're going to see another feature about images that you can use in image components, and it's zoom and trim. Then in this logo that we used before, it won't be that useful, but if we go zoom and trim, then it looks like this because now it's a PNG, there's some transparency, even though it looks like crap because it has been compressed. But I could zoom in some particular area, and now we only have this area. Then it's asking, hey, do you want to permanently cut this so the image will be cropped forever? Or you only want this, leave the picture zoomed in without changing the file? Meaning that I memorize the coordinates of the zooming, but I have the original image. Meaning, if I go to the registry, I will see the entire picture. This is useful for flows and diagrams because you can zoom in different places. That's what we're going to do now. We have this, right? Oh wow, this is too tiny for me. But let's divide it. So what I'm going to do is let me do a copy, and now I will do a zoom, and I will do only the cardiovascular system. Boom. Now, in this case, it's very low resolution. I will get the high resolution, but you get the point, right? That then, if I want, I will make the image occlusions, if I do care. I go to the original, and I know, now I want this. So right-click, image, zoom and trim. The difference is that even though I focus on a subset of the image, a physical subset, a portion, the image is the same. Therefore, if I go to the registry, I see the entire thing, I see it has two members. That's the beauty of it. So if I have, for each section, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I will have 9 different zooms, and then different elements that use one of those 9 zooms, but I have them all together. I don't have 9 different images, if this makes sense. Unless I want, it's no. So this happens at the source. It was the same picture, but for me the heart is its own thing. Therefore, what I will do is image, zoom and trim. And once you do this, it's permanently cut this. So from now on, the image will be only the heart. But wait, because now if I go to the other one, what happened here? This memorized the coordinates of the image. And what I did is that I changed the image. So now this is wrong because it comes from a different point of view. Let's say that the reference instead of 00 was, 100 pixels and 2400 pixels of the image. Now this is off. So what I can do, image and unzoom. And now I have the image, and I can leave it like that or do something in particular. But that's not what I wanted. That's why I did it on purpose. Because what you wanted is to have the full image, and then the sub-images. Is that the case? What you want is not to zoom in. You want to create a copy of the zoomed in image. It's not the same thing. So now I need to create another element. Let me copy it once again. That's anatomy, the whole. Then, now I make a duplicate. Then I want to be zoom and trim. Okay. And now I want this to become its own thing. Then instead of this, what I will do is extract. Right click, image, extract. And now I select a portion. Here you go. Do you see what's the difference? Look at the border color. It's what? It's red and says it's extracted. And the other one, this other one is red, and this is also red, but if I hover, come on, well, let me go here, it says anatomy. The one that I did with extracting, not with zooming, it's actually a copy. Do you see? Anatomy, parentheses, extracted. What it does is repeats the name and adds extracted at the end in parentheses. That's why if I just use SuperMemo, it looks like I'm doing the same thing, but no, behind the curtains is happening something else. So this is a copy with extracting. This is the same image, so here you go. This is the same image, just zoom in. Meaning at any time I can unzoom it, undo, and I use the entire picture. Or this one that is a copy of the registry. Meaning that if my flow was to have each one of those, I will need to do the same each time, but instead of zooming, I will do extracting. And it's the same right away, Alt X if it was text. And I will do another one. Do you see? Now, what is this color? It's not red. It's what? It's green. And on top of that, look at the image name. Anatomy, extracted U. What happened is that I already extracted once, and this name already exists in the registry. And in any registry, no two members can have the same name. Names are enforced to be unique. When this happens, SuperMemo detects that and preemptively adds one random character at the end. Can be a letter, lowercase, uppercase, numbers, and a few characters. So this is yet another image. But hey, it says a duplicate. Now, if I do another extract of the leg, let's say, image extract, do you see it's creating a child? Before what I did, if you paid attention of the, when I do this, that appears at the top of what I click, I did first a duplicate of the element and then the zoom. No, you create, instead of the zoom, the extracting, and this creates the duplicate. And I have the date, it's a timestamp, because it's empty. That's why I did it on purpose, empty, and then I filled in the text, because that's the major difference. Look at what you're getting. So one of the hints that your future self can deduce is what I actually did in the past based on the placeholder, because the name of duplicate timestamp, or this that adds my default font, family and so on, styling, is telling me something already. Oh, that means I did a duplicate generally. No, that means I did an extract. Here you go. As easy as that. So then, if you have this flow, you will do 9 times this for every section of the image, but every image will be on its own. And then for every image, let's pretend I do image occlusion, so I will have at least one item or a topic, if I want to, for each one of those. So I will have one element for every label possible. Let's simplify, I want all of the labels, but not all of them will be in the same image, because I had did an extract. That's the massive difference between zooming in or resetting the zoom and extracting. Hope it's clear. We're going to see what you can do with images, especially useful, is called the registry paste. So let's see that I have an image that has been used quite a lot, right? Could be this one. Let me see what it is actually used. Here you go. Then I come here, and it's some of these articles, agreeableness. Okay. So one of the use cases is, hey, now I found a very high resolution image, version of the same image. So what I'm going to do, okay, so now I'm going to search for that. So I'm pretty sure that Wikipedia, here you go. Then I'm going in more details, and I will get the maximum resolution possible. Well, in that case, it's not that high, to be honest. Usually in art, you can get really, really crazy high resolutions. So I'll look at this, super high definition. So what I can do now is, if I copy and paste, hey, that's not what I wanted. It's creating a copy, right? No, I don't want to apply the, oh man, it's not what I wanted. But if I leave it now, like this, and I paste the clipboard, because now the image component is selected, it's telling me this. What do you want to do? Create a new component, the same behavior as without selecting the image component? Local or global? Global, this means I'm pasting the image to the registry, meaning that whatever image there is, it will be replaced, but the member stays the same. So if this image is used 8 times in different places, now that image with higher resolution will be used instead. So it's easier to follow. What I will do, let me delete this, because the quality is more or less the same. What I will do is that I will change entirely the picture. So I want to represent agreeableness with something different. Okay, I will be using this image instead. Okay. Copy image. And now select the image component, copy, paste, and now is do global. If I do global, means all of the other elements that were using the same picture now use this other picture instead. How I know that? Because it's telling me there are 8 users. I knew that because I looked preemptively, but if I didn't, SuperMemo will tell me that. If I say local, it will be just in this particular topic, in this particular element. So all of the other users are untouched. It will have the same effect as if I have removed the image and I have put then a new one. So let's say do global. Are you sure? Yes. I can put another name if I want to. Nice. So what happens now if I go to my root element? Huh? What on earth? What happened here? This is used for 7 elements now, not 8. 8, that seems like I did a local, right? So let's do it once again. I was here. Okay. Now links, this is a different member. Agreeableness. Okay. So now I'm going to do the same. So copy this to the clipboard, just in case. Copy image. Okay. Now in the image, right click, copy, paste. It's another way to achieve the same. And I say no, do global. Okay. Now do you see the image has been changed? But now if I go to the other, to here, look at that. I have other members. Now the other members also use a new picture. Here you go. So the use case is if you want to change the picture but keep all of the relationships, being a completely different picture or a higher resolution of the same picture. That's how you can do it. So remember, local, only the current element. Global, all of the elements. If it happens to be that there's only one user, it will have the same effect, basically. And remember that I use my clipboard, meaning I have compressed the quality in this case. And what we have also seen is that we can right click here and paste here or even overwrite. If I click overwrite, then SuperMemo is asking me for a file. Therefore, it's the same effect as Ctrl-Q. Therefore, I can bypass the quality, reducing the quality, the compression. So I have, for instance, if it was the same picture but higher quality, then I can keep the higher quality. How can I do that? Instead of using Ctrl-V as a clipboard, I just use the menu. It's the only difference. Overwrite file. This is clipboard. It will be compressed. Overwrite file, it won't. So now if I put this one, I know it's dummy. So that summarizes more or less all of the copy, paste, replace, paste over, all of the global, local, all of the combinations you might think of. But remember, for the Fluency, we only want 2 flows. Change the picture with retaining the links, so all of the members are intact, or I want just to have a higher resolution. Or a different, I had, I don't know, PNG and now in JPEG. If what you wanted is to convert the type, so hey, I have PNG, is too large, and I want JPEG, there's no need for this flow, because you can actually convert the image. Right click, convert to JPEG, and that's about it. It's super quick. You don't have even a dialog. We're going to see what you can do with images that is too large. You can compress them. So right click, image, and compress. And then you see how many kilobytes you want. So it's not that, hey, reduce this to 500 pixels. No, I want to be, this already is very low. But if it's a few thousand, no, let me just do 20. something very small, right? Usually I put 50, 500, because above this, SuperMemo starts to slow down with images. So remember, if what you want is to resize or to modify the quality, there's no need for this. You just right-click, convert the type, and if it's not enough, or you want to keep PNG, because there's a space, there's background, empty background, and so on, perhaps you want to compress. Then you don't want to compress, you want to scale. Here you have more degree of freedom. The quality, you can even crop, and you see the crop real time that, hey, I don't want to see the guy, right? Nice. So it will be like this. Confirm. So now now the file size is smaller because I have cropped the image. It's not the entire image that is smaller, scaled down. It's just a fragment of the image. So any combination of this, useful. Even if you don't want for the file size, is that, no, I don't want to see the guy, I only want this section of the image. I could have done this elsewhere and import it in SuperMemo, or I import in SuperMemo and then I do the cropping. It's totally fine, depends on you. That covers quite a lot already with images. We're going to focus on the latest video for the Fluency track about images. More or less where you put the line, the threshold, when it's worth to have the images on your own collection and when it's just on the topics. So if I go to any random place on Wikipedia, let's see, active theory, okay. I may have images, here you go, are in line. Wikipedia is very safe, but rule of thumb, if it's a personal blog and so on, just get the images right away because they are prone to be lost. Then, as we have seen, you can do Ctrl F8 to import it. Perhaps you don't want that on the components because the images get inherited. You don't want that. There's another something you can do. There's another option you can do, and it's to localize. Meaning that instead of going here to URL, upload wikimedia.org, Wikipedia, you do localize, and now this is on my registry. If I do it once again, now look at this. File, this SuperMemo, systems, it's local. This is a good option as a precaution because when it's a blog, I discovered that after a few years. I think that is a personal blog that then the author moves on, doesn't maintain the website or doesn't pay, so it becomes, the website goes down or whatever, or just deletes because they want and they delete everything they have published. This also happens, right? So you get the copy. But then what happens? This is yours, right? 69, Then no worries, this could be in your registry. It will pollute a little, but as long as you put meaningful names, you will know that what's gibberish, like 69, like this case, I think. Yeah, 69, that doesn't mean anything. You know, it's something that you localized and it's low priority. It can wait. The con is that, especially the file size is large, this accumulates. Especially you use textbooks that you could localize 100 or more images in one go. But the theory is that with incremental reading, you will incrementally add this to a component. Then you will eventually you will make an extract. Let's see only the definition. Now I make the close relation. I apply done. And imagine that I have read this. So I do more repetitions overall with time, and eventually I apply done. I finish the flow, and then I will have an item with this image. So even though I put the images on the topics are temporary. I will apply done eventually on them. And applying done, we have seen that deletes the components, including the images. So what will happen? If I apply done I will have the image in one of the items, no worries. And if I apply done and I didn't have any extract or cross validation, what was preemptively localized, now it becomes unused. So the next time that I do a repair collection with the registries, with the bit registries, the unused members will be gone. So what you added preemptively, no worries. Whatever you process that, if it's in 2 years or the next decade, it will become gone or used for real. You just depend how many thousands of images you're willing to put on the queue, like waiting in case I need them. Depends all of them. How much you want to be sure you keep them. Versus, okay, it's not a big deal if I lose them after the years, and so on. Rule of thumb. Priorities. It's high priority. I do care. I will prioritize. Therefore, I will localize the images right away, unless it's something evergreen like Wikipedia. But even if Wikipedia changes the images, which is unusual, but happen, you're gonna still go to the history and get the picture of the version from 10 years ago anyways. It's on their servers. Nothing is deleted. And could be the case that you say, no, I really want images even in the topic, in the items to be here, like Anki style. You can actually force to use it with trickery. SuperMemo won't let you do this easily, but with scripting, you could automate this. But I don't suggest to do it because it's not meant for this flow. It's meant to be on registries. This is forever. So if it's on a topic, at your own risk. But for items, the images have to be on a registry, in the registry, meaning in an image component. Anything you have inline, prone to be deleted. Please don't use this flow. One exception is the LaTeX. Use images for LaTeX that do use scripting and so on, but that's an outlier case, and it will be covered only on the mastery track. Again, an exception to the rule, and it's very something you don't want to do, basically. If you could avoid it, you will do. This is no more or less everything you need to know about images, a little more in detail, for the Fluency. You'll realize that a lot has been taken out. That's why there's not even a section just for images. Unlike the reaction with full course and so on, because everything is good to know, but the use cases are very specific, and there's a lot more stuff more important than this. And we are reaching the end of the course already. There are just a few sections left. Incrementally.